With my outside review of the Speedway Cycle Shelter. SpeedwayShelters.com. I originally ordered this because my bike blew over when I had just a regular cover on it, which sucked because I was in the field at the time, so I couldn't just go outside and pick the bike up and call it good. Fortunately, my neighbors helped my wife pick it up, but I had to have another solution. So I did some research, and of the two cycle shelters that I liked, this company was the only one that would ship to an APO-AE address. For those of you who are not familiar with an APO address, that is a military address that is overseas, and I am in not so sunny Bavaria, which is part of Germany, and we have gale force winds today, 75 to 85 kph, which is roughly 40 to 50 miles an hour winds, forecasted through the night. This is not the first time we've had gale force winds. So one of the big questions I had about the cycle shelter was, how well does it hold up in the wind? Well, as you can see, I have it staked down right here in the front with some stakes I just went and got from the PX. Hopefully they'll hold. They're a little different style than what I'm used to. They're not like the traditional V shape. They are like spring, like they're almost like a wishbone shape that you squeeze together and then you hammer it into the ground at an angle, and it's supposed to spread out, and then there you go. So I also had to build this platform to anchor the Speedway shelter. My original thought was, hey, I'll just drill into the brick, but I live on post, so that's kind of a big no-no. So I built this platform. As you can see here, I had to add some reinforcements to it because when I originally built the platform, I did the supports. You can actually you can see it better on the front because that one's not painted. You can see the support runs along the front there instead of running lengthwise like my additions here do. The reason why I had to add these is because you can see how the cycle shelter is bolted down right here to the platform. There is also, which I don't think I can get to it, you might be able to see it, sort of, not so much. Anyway, there is a white metal strip that runs across the front there, and it's bolted down. Well, because of the tension from the cycle shelter itself, it was pulling that front board up at an angle because they're just, basically there's a series of supports and I've got two boards bolted to each one, which is, in retrospect, a really dumb way to do it, but you know, I know which end of the hammer to hold. For carpentry, that's about it. But I just staked this down today. It's been out here in high winds before without the guy wires. Unfortunately, I've yet to find a way to stake it down back here because, you know, there's no grass like within reach here. We do have the flaps here, which I could probably run get some eye bolts or something and screw it straight into the platform. Another thing, you can see the wind's really kicking. Let me back up a little bit. One thing I definitely found is, I wasn't using it originally, was you can see I've got it locked right here. It's got these two spots on the frame where you can lock it together. You don't have to use a padlock. You can pretty much shove anything in there that'll fit. But we came back from a day trip one day when it was particularly windy and found the shelter completely open. The wind had caught it, and you can see the wind's kicking. It will actually raise this up. It is pretty heavy. I mean, I'd guesstimate what I'm picking up right about now is about 10 or 15 pounds maybe. But it was blowing hard enough to blow the whole thing open. And you'll notice that my platform does not run the length of the shelter. That is because the only place to get wood here is to either go to the self-help, which is on post, which is closed when I was building this thing, or go to OBI, or I don't know, there may be, OBI is kind of like a Home Depot for Germany, but all their measurements are in metric, and somehow I screwed up the conversion between standard and metric. So my platform is long enough for the bike, and that's about it. So I don't have my key down here. I grabbed the first lock I happen to have a key for, and apparently I've only got one key for it. I mean, you know how that goes. 15 locks in your toolbox and you got keys for 2 of them. Yeah, it happens. I need to get some new locks. But I'll see if I can raise this up a little bit so you can see. Oh, you can see L motorcycle. And fits in there pretty good, and you can see down there in the front where it's bolted down. I actually have the bike parked up pretty much on that. That is actually one of the things I don't like about this shelter, is that cross piece up there, which does run the entire width of the shelter, is very thin metal. It's kind of flimsy, and with the amount of tension that is put on the shelter itself by you know, when you stretch it over the frame and everything, it kind of, the front of the shelter lifts up, which is kind of one of the reasons why you have to have it bolted down or something. But you can see it's been raining off and on pretty much all week, last couple of weeks actually, and there is almost no water on the bike right now. Let me see if I can get in here. Okay, so, here we are. Inside the shelter, it straps to these cross pieces here with Velcro. Velcro actually holds really, really well. And you can see up here, I mean, it's kind of dark. I don't have a flashlight on the phone. This is on my cell phone here. Let me see if I can. Okay, that didn't work. But you can see it's kind of pulled up a little bit, but I've got the bike, that's very hard to see. Actually, I don't think I have it on that cross piece. But just in case you're wondering, this is a 2017 Indian Roadmaster parked on this wooden platform. So far I haven't had any issues as far as well, that would be the, there's that cross piece down there. Let's see if I can get a look at that. Let's see what we got. Okay, the cross piece is bowed up in the middle. I don't think that's a huge deal. What I might end up doing once the weather gets a little better is I might end up just pulling the bike out, drilling a couple of extra holes down there, because I've got bits that'll drill through that metal, and adding some extra bolts. May or may not void my warranty. I don't know. That's a good question for Cycle Shelter, I guess. But yeah, I built the platform just long enough for the bike. You can see here, and I picked up this rubber, like non-skid mat stuff. Having driven my motorcycle up on plywood or its equivalent before, as soon as you hit that with your tire, it gets really slick. And it was $10 for each mat at OBI, so, or €10, whatever. But as you can see, it's fairly waterproof. The only water I've actually seen in here is pretty much condensation. But there's no water on the bike. There's like a few little drops here and there on the seat. I've got my charger. You can see it down there, battery tender. I actually had to pick that up here locally because the battery tender I had from the States won't work on 220 because, poof. This was actually pretty easy to set up. It took me maybe to set the frame and everything up, I don't know, 20-30 minutes maybe, if that. There is one, oh, that's going to be an issue right there. It looks like it's been rubbing on the wing nut. Yeah, they advertise this as no tools required. I will tell you, putting this part together right here, these are like the side braces. This right here does not fold. The rest of these fold up. Like accordion's closed and accordion's back open. These are held on by wing nuts. And it says no tools required. It helps to have a Phillips head screwdriver to hold this one in place. I mean, you can see it does have some flex to it. Which is probably good. You know, you probably don't want it completely rigid, because if it was, you'd probably run the risk of this tearing at some point. All in all, for me getting this shipped out here, total cost for the cycle shelter and shipping was about $500. So not a cheap option, but it beats the alternative of leaving the bike out in the elements with no cover, because again, as I was saying, I had just a Dalco extra large touring cover, which I've used. That was actually my second cover. And the wind caught it like a sail and blew the bike completely over onto its side. So that was uncool. So I went with the cycle shelter. Obviously, I would prefer a garage, but I don't have one. So here we are. I'll do another video later. You know, how it opens and closes. Blah blah. I don't think I need to do that. As I was saying earlier, my biggest concern was how well this thing holds up in the wind, and so far it's doing pretty well. Obviously, I'm going to have to do a little bit of reinforcement along the front. I don't think it's a big deal right now. Those bolts don't look loose. They're just out there. Yeah, they're not loose or anything. That's actually going to be a fairly large issue for me. Is going to be if I drill into that, I'm going to get the nuts on the bottom, because that was actually a big pain in the ass. Because I actually had to raise up the platform and reach under to get the nut in there with a really long wrench. It was just a big pain. So, anyway, this is how the shelter holds up in the wind. So far, it's doing pretty well. I'm going to get back out of here. Hopefully, I can get back out of here. Reach down. Open this up. Set the filter back down. I don't know why it does this. I think it's just because of the tension. You also have these vents up here. That you can open up, I guess in the summertime when it's not going to rain. I thought about leaving them open in this high wind, but I was more worried about the bike getting all dirty and whatnot. So hopefully I'll do a follow-up video praising how well this thing works. So, Speedway Cycle Shelters.